What's up everyone, John from Beyond ARTV signing on for another episode of 7 on Sunday, my weekly countdown series where I count down 7 of my favorite things or 7 things based on a certain topic. And today I'm going to be talking about 7 bands or else artists that I love or else really like but never get to talk about in video form. Maybe it's just because they're not putting out new material at the moment, maybe you guys haven't expressed interest in me talking about them, or at least not a ton of you, or else it's just something that I've never gotten around to, but I still want to show them some love. And keep in mind, with these bands or artists, it's not that I'm in love with every little song or every move that they've made, but I would call myself at least a casual fan, I suppose, or else maybe a hardcore and devoted fan in some places, and I just haven't found my time to talk about them. So I'm working it into an episode of 7 on Sunday. I do hope you guys enjoy this one. Leave suggestions for future episodes in the comment section down below. I do read the comments, upvote some of the ones that you like and would like to see made, and leave a like on the actual video too while you're here. Let's kick off the countdown. These are going to be in no particular order. The first one I decided to talk about today is the band Crash Kings. I was actually a huge fan of their debut album, so much so that I joined their crowd-funded second album. I got a signed copy of Dark of the Daylight for myself. Now you guys might think back all the way to 2009, 2010 and remember their one-hit song, Mountain Man. I'm sitting on top of a mountain. Yeah, that one. It hit #1 on the alternative rock airwaves, and that was something that really caught my ear, and I was like, okay, it's driven by pianos, and I ended up listening through the entire debut. I loved every song. This was the soundtrack to my senior year of high school, and it's something that is still such an emotional record for me in a way because I'm attached to it in that time period of my life in a way. And these guys, I don't really think that they're active anymore. It's been a while since Dark of the Daylight came out. They have done a few things like on Facebook, or else they've talked about new music, but I don't think they've actually done anything since this project, but I am glad that we got a follow-up. And here, they had some songs like 6 Foot Tall. I didn't care for the album as a whole as much, but still, it was a really solid effort that definitely grew on me with time. If you're into alternative rock and pianos, aka maybe like The Fray or else Keen or something like that, then I have to recommend these guys. In fact, they kind of use the piano as a tool in place of the guitar, and it works so well. If you're looking for songs to check out 6 Foot Tall off of the second album, or off of the first album, I would have to recommend It's Only Wednesday. Mountain Man is a fantastic one as well. 1985, Come Away, and Non-Believer.
And the sound, remember not our faulty pieces, remember not our rusted parts. It's not the petty imperfections that define us, but the way we hold our hearts and the way we hold our heads. I hope they write your name beside mine on my gravestone when I'm dead. And when we are dead, let our voices carry on to find a better song.
Now I do get a comment for this one quite often. John, talk about La Dispute. Well, here we are today. I'm going to talk about them. I love their debut. I love Rooms of the House. They've done a lot of great stuff in between. And while I haven't been able to devote a ton of time to them, you guys, seriously, it's hard. It's hard to stay on top of current releases and go back, check out older stuff, and balance that with listening into music that you already love. It's a big kind of swirl and circle that's really hard to balance along with the social life. But I have been able to go back, check out some of La Dispute's stuff, and I really feel like they're pretty criminally underrated. These guys are massively talented, and the thing that they do best, if you don't know anything about the band at all, they kind of have a poetry sense to their lyrical content. It flows so well, and I love their lead singer, his presence on these tracks. It often goes from slow and almost kind of depressing. He sets the tone with his voice, and then the instrumentals grow in their intensity, and they just get furious, especially as his voice picks up as well. Like King Park, for example, one of the saddest songs that I have ever heard. I think a lot of people have probably heard me allude to in some of my parody videos that I've done, the Such Small Hands song, the opening track from their debut album, and that is a fantastic song. Don't just take it as something silly, I think I saw you in my sleep. Darling is the actual lyric there. It's a great kickoff to that album, and it really just sets the tone. They were striking the iron hot so earlier in the career, and they've stayed consistent as well. Their most recent album, Rooms of the House, is something that my girlfriend showed to me, and I really honestly love the vibe of it. It's something that does a fantastic and vivid job of storytelling. I have to recommend it to you guys. If you like stories and settings and timepieces and that sort of thing, this is something that will make you think.
So now I follow it around the world. I can't keep up. The story never ends as long as we have blood and guts. 'Cause I want it all.
You don't often see a great comeback story like this, but with Death from Above 1979, they pulled it off. Now, if you haven't heard of this band, I don't blame you. Not everyone knows about them. They're a Canadian rock, alternative punk band that really have a bunch of tenacity to them. They thrash about wildly with their guitars, and some of the lyrics are like shouted in places, but mostly it's kind of like chaotic and noisy with the fast-paced drumming. It's just two members, and they achieve such a big and brutal sound. But they also have a slower side, as they showed us on The Physical World, their comeback album in 2013. If you haven't seen my review of that, I definitely recommend going over to my main channel, ARTV, searching that up. You will do yourself a favor if you're doing that. There's so many good songs on there. It's packed to the brim, like everything from Crystal Ball to Right on Frankenstein to some of the slower moments, like I believe it's called Red is White or White is Red. White is Red, that's what I meant. I should have gone with my second instinct. That's a fantastic record, as is their debut, which I actually ended up going back and checking out before I reviewed this album in 2013. I had no idea who they were, but I heard the song Government Trash from The Physical World, and I was like, hell yes, this song pummels, it kills, it has high octane, I love this. And then I heard more, and I was like, I can't wait to check out this album. I went back and heard their debut along with an EP as well. You're a Woman, I'm a Machine is the debut album, and it does a great job of mixing in like the rockier stuff, but also some like weird electronic noises, some synths here and there, and they honestly didn't change that much while they were gone. Honestly, they come back, like Sebastian comes back with some of the same stuff and charisma that he brought to the first album, but like 9 years later, and that is really unheard of. It's not that they just repeated the same formula. They did the same thing over again. It's not that at all. It's just that they stuck with their sound and they were able to run with it in a new direction.
What is the worst they could buy? In this head, I forget.
If you're looking for something a little bit out of the ordinary, something out in left field, something very unique, then I have to recommend you Of Montreal. And while I'm not into everything that Kevin Barnes, aka Of Montreal, has released, it's really just him, especially in a studio setting. It's weird, but it's catchy as all get out. And the weirdest way, and the lyrics here are like kind of happy, frantic, maddening almost. It's like they're weird, sarcastic, and you don't even know exactly what's going on half the time. And the instrumentals take all of these weird twists, and I love that. I mean, the first time you listen to this, it's probably not going to stick, especially if you're into maybe like more just ordinary pop and that sort of thing. There's a lot of pop flair to it, a lot of rock, psychedelic, alternative, and that sort of thing. My point is, let it sink in. Don't just judge it maybe off of the first listen, because it is kind of weird. It can get kind of noisy, a little bit repetitive, glitchy, and out there in places, but give it a listen or two, and maybe it'll start to settle in with you. That's what happened for me. About halfway through this album, I really started to get it on my first listen, and I was like, more please, and that's when I checked out the Sunlanded Twins, his other album that preceded that, I believe, and then a couple of other releases. And while I'm not as into the newer stuff, I still have to say that I really respect what Kevin's doing, and I do suggest you guys look them up. I have briefly mentioned Tool here and there. I talked about them in my 10 epic songs that turned 10 in 2016 video last December, and I think I've mentioned like Maynard's name, the name of their lead singer, a few times. But for people who are unfamiliar, Tool are kind of a metal and hard rock band that have been at it since like the 90s, but they're not very active. Maynard is a kind of a weird guy. He's got a lot to say, and he's got other projects like A Perfect Circle as well, and Pucifer has other acts, so he's not exactly in the forefront with Tool, but right now they're supposedly about to release a new studio album for the first time since 2006. 10,000 Days, aka that last album, was my introduction to Tool. I went back, checked out more of their other stuff. I actually heard a few songs on like Guitar Hero, Rock Band, that sort of thing, and I found myself really liking them. I'm drawn to this dark style with a lot of commentary, and while I didn't always understand it, I've gone back over time and delved into some of these tracks, and it makes me want to unlock more of the material. I haven't heard everything as of yet, but I still am very excited about seeing them at Boston Calling. I'm going to a music festival up in Boston in just a few weeks at the time of releasing this video, and I'm really excited to see them live. I've heard they kill it, they bring a great presence to the stage, and they are one of those kind of iconic bands that have a huge cult following and just a massive fan base in general.
I'll feed you fruit that don't exist. I'll leave graffiti where you've never been kissed. I'll do your laundry, massage your soul. I'll turn you over to the highway patrol.
From Odelay and Mellow Gold to Midnight Vulture, Sea Change, and obviously his most recent album, Morning Phase, I've been into Beck for a while. I got into him off of one of my least favorite albums. E-Pro was the lead single from Gyro, I believe is how you pronounce that one, and I wasn't really into that album as a whole, or the information that came after that, and that's surprising considering that's the time period that I got into him. I found myself more drawn to his early material, which was very zany in the lyrics. Like if you've heard the song Loser, which is probably his biggest hit to date, you know that it's really just off-the-wall lyrics that are going all over the place as the song bounces around over this kind of looped acoustic guitar beat. And I love that song, but I've heard it a few too many times. I started getting into some of his other projects. I think Sea Change is the one that really opened my eyes. I listened to that before his other slow album Morning Phase came out, but then he's also got his more dancey and rocky stuff. He's released a couple of singles since then. Supposedly an album's been coming for a while, but I don't know where the hell that is. We got Dreams, which was fantastic, and Wow, which I loved as well, but still no sign of an album yet. I'll have my fingers crossed for that. There's a lot of people that are supposedly dropping albums this year, like Tool, System of a Down, Beck, but we'll see if that actually happens. But in the meantime, go back, get familiar with Beck's back catalog.
Oh, Santa, why'd you do it? What'd you do that for? Saying there's nothing to it, and letting it go by the boards. Oh, Santa, why'd you do it? What'd you do that for?
The final pick I have to discuss is Miss Fiona Apple. I actually, on a whim, bought all of her albums on Amazon. I have them all sitting back here on CD. They were $3 each, and I said, why the hell not? They're on a great sale. Barack Obama approves. He had them featured in his playlist. I think the song Criminal from her debut album Tidal was in one of his playlists. And I said, if it's good enough for that president, then it's good enough for me. But seriously, I really do enjoy Fiona Apple. She's got a great vibe to her, and it's not always something where I can just pinpoint like, oh yeah, I love that song, or that batch of songs, or that album. It's just something for me. I can keep these in rotation in the car occasionally, and I can throw them on, and it's just great kind of driving and vibing music. Her releases that I'm most familiar with are her 2005 album as well as her 1996 release Tidal. I think that one just got repressed on vinyl, but it's like a Vinyl Me Please exclusive, so if anyone wants to hit me up with that, that's like my favorite Fiona Apple record, so you know, feel free to reach out to me in the comments and the DMs. I'm accepting offers of sending it to me for free. Her music does a nice job blending the lines between like jazz and just an aura, pop, alternative, a little bit of grit and flair on some of the records, and a little bit of restraint on some of the others. Great use of pianos, acoustic guitars, and melodies, and she has a great voice as well. And it can be overpowering and whenever it needs to be, but more often than not, it's very subtle, effective, but it really hits the spot. Did you guys like seeing this episode of 7 on Sunday where I talked about bands or artists that I never really talk about? If you want to see this again in the future sometime, definitely let me know in the comments, and let me know with a like on the video that you enjoyed it. Let me know suggestions for other episodes of 7 on Sunday, and if you're able to, support me on Patreon. It's the top link in the description down below. It helps these videos and all the other videos that I do on Beyond ARTV and ARTV keep coming on a monthly basis. If you're new, don't forget to subscribe to the channel because friends don't let friends go and subscribe. The link to my Patreon is that annotation over there in the corner. If you want to see last week's episode, you can click right here, or a recent video that I did on Beyond ARTV, click right here. All of my social medias are found in the description down below. Other than that, I'll see you very soon on Beyond ARTV.